Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the 100. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we had the whole opening with Gabriel and everything, and I thought that was interesting because it's like from him talking to Anders, I thought was kind of interesting because it's like it brought up the question I had last episode, and that's kind of getting thrown around. It's like, is Gabriel doing this necessarily to protect everyone else? Because it is interesting because it's like, oh, because you don't want to die. It's like, which that line when Andrew was like, oh, because you don't want to die, was like, that's so interesting considering the fact of the matter is, death is kind of sadly all he's wanted because, the whole Prime situation. So I thought that was interesting. But I guess it's like, you want to have your time, but you don't want it to be kind of, severely cut short. So I thought that, sorry, I'm stammering on my words. I just think that's interesting because it is the thing of like, do you have the most altruistic reasons for doing what you're doing? Is it pure because you are a scientist? Are you doing this purely out of discovery about what they're up to? Because apparently there's like some transcendence that they're doing. Basically, they're trying to it seems like they're preparing for the final war. It seems like putting in the code to the gate or the device is going to take them to the final war that humanity's supposed to wage. And the fact of the matter is, after that, there's going to be a transcendence that I'm like, that's what they're all aiming for. Because even him being like, oh, but I guess Orlando didn't tell you all there was about us. Because it's like, oh, we're sending him to this planet. It's like, oh, he's like, is that your version of heaven? It's like, no. I didn't catch the name, but were they referring to the same planet that Clark and the others were just on? So if you go back, would it end up being like one of the bodies they came across in the snow or whatever? Would that have been Orlando, or was it a different or would it have been a different planet entirely that he got sent to? Like I said, I didn't quite catch the name of the planet they said, but regardless, it's kind of like, you work with us, trying to figure out the device and everything, because it seems like it takes them long periods of time to be able to access, because later on Gabriel's talking to that dude and it's like, yeah, the last time they unlocked something new was way before even he was born, and that was them being able to harness the power of what, Gabriel refers to as the anomaly. So there's that side of things. I thought that was just interesting. Like I said, it's like, yeah, I want to not only save my life, but I'm saving my friends' life. So, like I said, it makes, I get it why he did what he did last episode, because it's like, oh, I'm protecting you. You guys, there's no surefire way we can do this. But it's like, literally everyone wanted to do it, but you kind of went against their wishes, and you got them captured. So it's like, I don't know. But I guess for him, it's like, it would have been a senseless death for them just to kind of run out there. It's like, I guess because they're so important, it's like, they're important to him because, let's not forget, him, Echo, and Hope spent the last 5 years together, Obviously, even saying goodbye to Orlando. Someone had actually hit me up a while back. They were like, I hope they were lying about the whole Orlando situation. This kind of confirms. I kind of figured they wouldn't be. What reason would they have to lie about that? Especially because they told her to Clark. Clark wouldn't have any, say on the whole Orlando thing, so why would they bother lying about it, But it's still kind of a bummer. But, Gabriel kind of says his goodbyes and everything. So there's that. Then we focus on the others. It's like, Echo thinking about her and Bellamy. I thought that was really sweet, Obviously, while they were, in between season, that time skip, in season 5 and season 4/5, and, them being in space and everything. And, it was just kind of this nice moment between them. It's like the whole thing of like, oh, your strengths and your weaknesses. He's like, Octavia is my weakness. And she's like, no, Octavia is your strength, And obviously for Bellamy, it's like your weakness is your loyalty. And she's like, that's not a weakness. But I guess it's like, it's basically the things you do, the things that loyalty asks of you, because she has to be this, what she did at Mount Weather, just almost killing Octavia. Stuff like that is the byproduct of her loyalty, and then we see the budding romance between, because Echo was almost saying no matter what happens between us, the moment we go back to Earth, it's going to be, but it's like, no, what happened in space didn't stay in space, it kept on, so, but obviously Echo's thinking about it, and it's, it's just, that moment when her and Bellamy became more, despite their past, what they've done to others, what they did to each other, despite all that, and now to know that he's gone, and Octavia's there to comfort her, because she's like, the fact of the matter is, she wishes she could take it all back. Like, the moment, like, it's like, my brother, I beat him, and he let me because he felt like that's what I needed after, Lincoln's death and everything. And it's like, for him, it's like, for her, she wishes she could take that moment back, but she can't. And so she's trying to be there for Echo. At the same time, there's the whole situation with Hope and Dioza, and it's just like, all right, we need to get out of here. She's like, how the hell did you get out of here? And she's like, whoa, that's dishes, young lady. Once again, it's so weird seeing Dioza of all people being all motherly and stuff like that. But then she's like, I'm serious, Mom. And it's just like, well, she's like, well, I bit a dude's throat out with my teeth, and then I scooped one of his eyes out. That's not going to work again. And, it's got to be interesting hearing the bloody details like that. And so for her, it's like, so he told you about me, didn't he? Because, the whole conversation is about, like, it's and I brought this up before. It's like, it's so interesting. And like I said, even Echo's kind of thrown it out there. It's like, the fact of the matter is, as much as Dioza's tried to make sure that Hope didn't end up like her, ironically enough, she's ended up so much like her. Because obviously it's like, oh, what did Gabriel tell you? It's like, oh, he told you were a Navy SEAL, that you were a freedom fighter. And she's like, terrorist. He used the word terrorist, didn't he? It's like, yeah, Dioza knows. Because for her, that's how everyone is going to look at her, especially those who are alive around the time to know what Dioza did. It's like, I mean, well, not just that, but the history books in general. Like, obviously, Russell brought that up, like, last season. It's like, we know what Dioza's done. She's literally put up there with the baddest in human history, And for her, it's a situation where she does regret what she did. Because for her, it's like she feels like because of what she did, she got a lot of people killed, innocent people killed. And she's like, what for? The earth got blown up. Not once, twice. And the second time around, there's no guarantee it will ever go back to the way it was. Even after hundreds of years, it didn't go back to the way it was, So it is a situation of like, it's a thing of, it kind of makes you she has perspective, because she knows how it's not just like, there were even innocent children that died, and I think being a mother now kind of makes her look back on that and be like, how could I do this to innocent people and everything? So I think it's, and Dioza, when she looks at Hope now, she sees herself, because it's like, already people already look at her like a monster. The last thing she wanted in this world was to ever have her daughter look at her that way. Because it's like, would I ever have told you the truth? Yes. But when you were older, she's like, I'm like 25, but it's like, not in my eyes. You're still, because for her, it hasn't been that long ago since, you were still her baby girl. And it's a situation of like, ever since you literally were a baby looking up at her with your eyes, it's like, she didn't want that Hope to ever look at her that way, But like I said, it just, ironically enough, everything worked out to make her go down that path regardless. So when it's all said and done, though, she's so Hope is so intent of getting out of there, and Dio's is like, all right, basically, I'll go along with whatever plan you have if you can lay me out. And I was like, oh, this is not going to go well for Hope. And despite all the training she's went through, boom, even told her about McCreary. Now that was interesting. Him being the psychopath that he was and everything, and even being layman's terms, laying it out there, being like, oh yeah, I only slept with him just so I can be basically on his good side when he was like usurping the ship and everything, so it's like, but for her, it's like, despite the terribleness that it was, it's like one good thing came out of it, and that was Hope, yeah, probably the less you know about your actual biological dad, probably the better, but nevertheless, for her, it's, for Dioza, it's like, don't give in to revenge. Like, that anger and that stuff, it will burn you up. It will basically eat you alive. And revenge, obviously, it never ends well. So she's trying to quell that anger inside of her daughter. And it's just like, for her, it's like she's been carrying this for so long. It's like, I've been filled with, it's like, you were here one moment and then you were just gone. And I just, she never thought she'd see her again. It's like, I can't lose. And then Dioza's like, I can't either. So it's like, kind of setting the tone of like Diozo's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure her and her daughter never get separated again. So obviously we cut back to Echo, who's cutting up her face because for her it's like it's supposed to be, it's their way of saying we're ready for war, because Octavia was like, it doesn't make any sense, they're feeding us, it's not like they're ready to execute us, what's this all about? And Echo kind of figures it out. It's like and also shows you like even more time has passed, because apparently Gabriel was like, yeah, I've been putting codes in this for like 3 months. So it's like, so we just saw like 3 months just kind of go by. Once again, time is going to be all over the place this season, and I really like that. But it's going to be interesting, like how being able to keep up with all that. But regardless, they kept them alive because it's like, oh, we're warriors. They want us alive because they want us to join their army. So Echo announces that they're ready to fight. So it seems like all 4 of them are going to be joining, this army. So there's that side of things. Then we get down to everything in Sanctum. And Mori is trying to do everything she can to make it so that basically there's a unification thing that Kaylee was a part of. Essentially, it's basically reuniting the children of Gabriel with their parents, because obviously it's like, well, not just their parents, but any family in general. And she says like basically the road out of hell is good stuff, and then Murphy kind of like got a little sadness in him, and she's like, you're not going to hell. I was like, right, holy shit. I was like, I forgot about that storyline of him believing he's going to hell and he just kind of wanted to I was like, right, that's still floating in your mind, isn't it? And then later on when Russell brings up the him getting burned thing, I was like, that's why you were so freaking out so much about that. I mean, granted, no one wants to die anyway, but it's like, that's why like at one moment it seemed like you were being sarcastic and stuff, and then you start freaking out. It's like, you literally burning at the stake was going to be a reminder of you literally burning in hell. I was like, holy shit, that makes so much sense now. I was like, I can't believe I completely forgot about him like believing he's going to go to hell. It's like, I mean, and sad thing is because Murphy's he just kind of was whatever about like all the mistakes he's made. It just put it in perspective where he now believes like, I'm going to hell for every bad thing I've ever done. Like, I've never been the best person, but I've never been the shittiest person either. And once again, that comes down to perspective. But obviously, Murphy ends up delivering food to Russell, a.k.a. Shade Hader, but it is a situation that the moment he's there, like Shade Hader is like, oh, I know you know who I am. Like the fact of the matter, he's like, I see that fear in you. And obviously, Murphy's like, fear is actually a good thing. It's pretty much kept me alive. It's always been, a good thing for me. So Shade Hader is like, all right, let's play a game of chess. And I'm like, okay. And that's the thing, like, because it's interesting, the person he would go to reach out to is Murphy, because I guess when it comes down to it, he does see a bit of himself in Murphy. People who are, it's like, oh, it's like surviving is one thing, but how would you like to be basically worshipped as a god? You kind of are in a certain extent, but probably more so fully to be able to kind of enjoying it, It was interesting, too, when Murphy was kind of getting back at him, being like, oh, yeah, like, the fact is your mom left you because of the conclave. The fact of the matter is Lexa took over, and pretty much everyone enjoys and loves Lexa more because she's the one that united everyone. And he's like, I'm the one that united everyone. Because it's that whole thing of, like, is it better to be loved or to be feared? Obviously, in Lexa's case, it was it was about fear, but eventually it became about being loved. But in his case, it's 100% about, no, fear me. So at the same time, there was also that interesting moment between Jackson and Maddie I thought was kind of neat, where it's like he's like, oh, what's this picture? And she's like, she's not sure. Part of me was like, isn't that one of the anomaly devices? And that people, like, I'm wondering, that has to be, because remember, they're suggesting that there was one on Earth. So she might be remembering a previous commander who was with other people. So that's probably, like, she's still getting fragments of the other commander's memories are still somewhere in her. They're not completely shaken loose. They're there to a certain extent. Because at least the flame made it so that she could probably control whatever knowledge she got. Now that it's been removed from her and destroyed, like, that connection isn't 100% severed. There's still remnants of it circulating throughout her. But it was interesting that Jackson basically gets to the root of, like, her panic attack. It's like, obviously, like, she was never able to have fun and live a certain life because basically her parents kind of wanted to hide the fact is that she was a Nightblood. So it was a situation of she could never really go out there and just have fun and just be a kid. And then obviously Bellamy asking her to take the flame and everything. And it's like Jackson was like in that moment, like when Indra was asking you to be the commander again, it took you back to that moment because at that time she reluctantly did it because it meant saving Clark. Now, whether that was, even if that was the case, it was still wrong for Bellamy to put you in that position, Jackson said, because once again, you're a kid, so it's understandable why you would feel the way you do. So, you know, the fact is you are just a kid. You don't have to shoulder that burden, you know, that so many people kind of put on you like that. So it's understandable. So I just thought that was kind of a neat, like, little insightful moment, and it kind of feeds into what I brought up before. It's like she's scared, like she'll never have a. She's trying to enjoy what Clark wanted her to have, just some shape or form of a normal childhood, you know. Because even with her childhood, she never had a normal childhood because of being a Night Beloved. Now she doesn't have to worry about that stuff, you know. So there's that. Nelson's meeting with Nikki. He ends up telling her about Russell, Emory, and Murphy. It's like, well, the fact of the matter, it's like your plot for revenge is kind of going because, like, well, obviously none of the Primes are still alive anymore, so it becomes that. So when that's all said and done, though, he's still trying to get them together because it's like, hey, like, she's like, I get the palace, you know, we split this place 50-50, you know. They're about to make a deal, but then Amori confronts him. Because obviously, because Jackson kind of psychoanalyzed her as well. And was like, basically the reason why Amori's trying to do this is because she herself is much like the children of Gabriel. She was kicked out by her family because she was different. She was kind of seen as kind of the other. So in a way, you know, even Amori said it herself, like, by bringing these people together, she's hoping to heal not just them, but herself as well. But, you know, it's interesting, the whole conversation about, like, obviously she's saying, like, oh, the way out of hell was through good stuff, but it's like, well, the inverse of that conversation, and it's, you know, a line I always use, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The reason why I say that all the time, too, is just because, like, there's a song by the band In Fear and Faith. It's kind of one of my favorite songs by theirs. It's called The Road to Hell. Because that's literally a line in the song, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Regardless, I know it's like a proverb that existed before them, but that's always what resonates in my head. Tangents and all that. But aside from all of that, she's setting up the party and everything, and eventually Nelson does show up, you know, and it's like, yeah, I kind of got your DNA, I kind of already set that all up, because for him, it's like, he didn't care about, you know, his family anymore, because, like, they left me behind, so I'm not going to be too, you know, concerned about it. But for Amori, it's like, if she could have had a chance to talk to her parents and ask them why they did what, and give her closure, you know, maybe a chance to, you know, potentially repair their relationship. When the time came, though, Nelson's there with his family, and, you know, at the same time, there's a whole situation with Murphy. I like that they kind of bounce back and forth because they're playing their little game. And obviously, every time it's like, you can tell that every time, like, he's referring to, like, Murphy's queen, he's referring to Amori. And obviously, like, Murphy got tired. He's like, all right, enough with the damn, like, chess analogies, you know? So it's a situation of, like, obviously you can tell, like, Shade Hader's really get inside of his head and stuff like that, because even moving certain chess pieces, Murphy's like, well, Shade Hader's like, oh, you're doing whatever you can to protect your queen, right? He's like, just shut up and play, you know? But then eventually it's like, wait, you could have won just then, but you didn't. You're trying to keep me here. It's because basically as Daniel, he could have stopped a lot of stuff because a lot of the followers would have been more willing to follow him because a lot of them kind of follow his words specifically. But now him kind of removed from the equation, now everything kind of goes down, you know, in the palace. And Nelson had, you know, reunited with his mom and everything. She's like, oh, you know, we had a name for you because it meant pure. And there was a healing moment there. And it's like, oh, good. And then he gets to his dad, but his dad is like, no, like, you are an abomination. All of you are. And he starts trying to choke Nelson. Nelson ends up killing his dad in front of his mom, which is so sad because your mom was willing. She was willing to, like, it's like, oh my God, my son's back. But then it's like, now you've killed her husband, your father. And it's like, that's not good. And now, you know, Nikki and the other, you know, prisoners burst in with guns. And now they're working with Nelson. Nelson's got a gun pointed at Amori. But it's like, Nikki's like, all right, let's not get to the killing yet. Let's get to our demands before we get to all that. And it's like, well, everything's going bad because even because obviously you knew it was going to go like this sooner, like, because even what's his face, Shade Hader was kind of like, even Shade Hader was like, when it's all said and done, you want to be on my best side because there's a part of you that realizes as a survivor that you want to be on my best side when I get out of here, because I will ultimately get out of here, and it seems like we're going to be heading in that direction. Now with everything kind of said and done, like all this army's kind of rising up, part of me's like, do you think this is supposed to be the final war that humanity's supposed to wage? Is it going to be like the disciples versus everyone under Russell? Because obviously, like, he's manipulating Nelson, who's into manipulating Nikki, because obviously he's already manipulating the believers. So it's like all that's kind of packaged together that I'm like, is this supposed to be that fight? Or is like obviously everything on Sanctum supposed to be completely separate? Obviously it plays into it, but the question is, in the grand scheme of things, this last war, like, how is that going to play out? Because once again, there's still a part of my brain that's like, you don't think the twist is going to end up being the fact is that, like, the shepherd is actually Shade Hader, like he ended up, but it's like, it seems like he's from Earth and not from, but that's what, like, because it doesn't seem like we're doing any time traveling to the past. Not well, because like the way the planet is now, it's like I was about to say, not less time, or not less they end up using the device on Earth, and end up like Russell gets there. Well, no, because he can't put Shade Hader at this point can't put himself in someone else's body, so that kind of moots the point I was wondering about. Because I mean, we meet the Shepherd. I'll get to that soon enough, but I just thought that was interesting. That's why I was wondering, like, is that going to be the correlation, this war, or is it going to be something else entirely? I mean, who's the war against that humanity is going to so it begs those questions. So everything's going to shit in the handbasket there, because obviously Indra's off trying to find their people, which we find out, obviously Clark and the others show up, like, on Bardo, and it's like, whoa, what is it? Octavia and Echo are here, but Bellamy's dead, and it's just like the ripple across everybody being like, well, what? Hearing that news. Obviously, Anders goes and wakes up the Shepherd, because it seems like he's in cryogenic state, but it's like waking him up because they've got Clark, and it's like, once again, why is Clark the most important thing? Why is she the key to all this? Hopefully we get some answers. I saw a peek of last episode. I'll go ahead and talk about it, because I was like, oh, that's interesting. We're finally going to get to see Earth before the events of the 100. Like 100 years before shit went sideways on Earth, before everyone went to space. I think we're going to see that. So we're probably going to get to see some early day stuff with like Dioza and McCreary. So I think like stuff like that. But also like probably stuff with Becca. Because Becca didn't come about until, because how long they were in space for a while before like Becca ended up like going back down to Earth and becoming what is essentially the first commander, right? And that was like that was, I can't remember, like, because that was so many seasons ago, but like, so we might see Becca, maybe. I would assume, I think so, with the time frame and everything. I mean, because Erica Sarah has already popped up a little bit this season, so I wouldn't be too surprised if they were able to kind of get her back for a little bit more. But regardless, seeing probably like how everything it's interesting, because I think that was even something they were kind of saying, like, basically we're at the end of the show, but we're going to see how the end actually began all those years ago, like see like Earth in its final days, and to kind of see it kind of come in, be like almost full circle, considering the fact this is the end of the 100, so it's just interesting in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, just from the tiny bit I saw the next preview in the next episode, that's what I'm getting from the episode, but we'll ultimately see exactly what goes down. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.